I never imagined a single word, just one, could shatter 35 years of motherhood. Get out! My son spat those words at me with the same mouth I used to kiss goodnight, the same mouth that used to call me mama when storms frightened him. But that night, standing in the doorway of the house I had paid for, cleaned, protected, and poured my life into, he didn't sound like my son at all. He sounded like a stranger wearing my child's face. It happened only 3 hours after he won the money. $800,000. Enough to tilt anyone's life. Enough to expose everything someone truly is. The win was supposed to be a blessing, a miracle, a chance for him to rebuild the life he had been slowly losing grip of, but instead, it exposed something dark. Something I had been afraid to see, something I had pretended wasn't there. A hidden rot, a seed of resentment. And by the time I saw it, it was already too late. The night air was cold, sharper than usual, brushing against my cheeks like tiny needles. The porch light flickered above us, casting uneven shadows across his face. His jaw was clenched, his nostrils flared, his eyes, once soft and bright, were hard and furious. And I felt something in my chest unravel. He said it again, louder. Get out, Mom. You don't control me anymore. Control him? God, if only he knew how much I wished I had control. Control to stop him from making mistakes, from hurting himself, from drifting into the people who sucked him dry. But I knew better. He was grown, a man, and suddenly a man with more money than he ever seen in his life. A gust of wind rustled the old oak tree in the yard, the same tree his father used to string lights on every Christmas. Its branches scraped the window like fingernails, a sound that usually comforted me. Not that night. That night it sounded like a warning. My hands were trembling, but I kept them at my sides. I didn't want him to see it. I didn't want him to think, after everything, that I was afraid of him. I wasn't afraid. I was heartbroken. I'd spent the morning cooking him breakfast, humming while I poured his coffee, thinking the day might finally be our turning point, that maybe he'd smile at me the way he used to. But he barely touched the food, just paced back and forth like he was waiting for something. And when the call came, the call that told him he won, it was like lightning struck him. At first, he screamed in joy. Then he cried. Then he hugged me. A real hug. A tight one. The kind I hadn't felt from him in years. And for a second, a single blessed second, I thought I had my son back. But then his phone buzzed. Then it buzzed again. And again. And slowly, his grip loosened. He stepped away from me, looking at the screen with a hungry sort of excitement I didn't like. And when he looked back up at me, something had shifted in him. Something small but sharp. A crack. That crack widened with every message he received, every call, every plan whispered into his ear by people who never cared about him before that moment. By sundown, they were already circling him like vultures. And by evening, he turned on me. I should have seen it coming. I should have understood sooner that money doesn't just change people. Sometimes it reveals them, exposes the selfishness they've been hiding beneath uncertainty, insecurity, failure. But a mother's hope is a stubborn, foolish thing. Mom, I'm serious, he said, jabbing a finger toward the driveway. I don't want you living here anymore. I'm done being treated like a child.
I stared at him, feeling the weight of all the years pressing against my lungs, All the nights I stayed awake waiting for him to come home. All the shifts I picked up to keep food in the fridge. All the birthdays I pretended to have enough money for. All the prayers I whispered when he made dangerous choices. I wasn't treating him like a child. I was holding him together. And he never even saw it. My voice barely rose above a whisper. "This is my house." Not anymore. He shoved a folded paper toward my chest. The deed transfer I never agreed to. The signature that wasn't mine. My heart clamped in my chest. He forged it. My son forged my signature. A ringing filled my ears, not from shock, but from something else. Something like mourning. "How could you do this?" I asked. The words tasted like dust in my mouth. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. His expression said it all. He thought he deserved more, thought he was owed something, thought I had held him back somehow, kept him from the success he believed he was meant for. And the moment he had money in his hands, money he didn't earn, money that came from sheer luck, he thought he no longer needed me. I felt the world tilt under me, and yet I stayed still, very still. The way someone stays still at a gravesite. He stepped closer, face twisted with a kind of anger I didn't recognize. "Don't make this harder, Mom. You always said you wanted me to stand on my own. Well, now I am." He wasn't standing on his own. He was leaning on the money, leaning on the people who suddenly loved him because of that money, leaning on a fantasy that was already beginning to crack around the edges. But he couldn't see it. He didn't want to. I took a slow breath, steadying myself. My fingers curled against my palms, nails digging into my skin just enough to keep me grounded. He waited for me to break down, to beg, to plead, but I didn't. I looked him directly in the eyes, the same brown eyes he got from his father, and I saw the last fragment of my little boy vanish, like smoke in the cold night. "All right," I whispered. Just one word, soft, but final. He blinked, confused. He expected resistance. He expected tears. But all he got was acceptance, a weapon he wasn't prepared for. I grabbed my coat from the hook, the same coat I wore the night his father died, the same coat I had planned to be buried in someday. I slipped it on slowly, savoring the fabric, the familiar weight, the warmth that wasn't there anymore. As I stepped down the porch, the gravel crunching under my shoes sounded like bones breaking. I didn't look back, not once, because I already knew the truth. He didn't. He thought he had won $800,000, but in that moment, he lost something worth far more. He lost me. The wind hit me the moment I stepped off that porch, sharp enough to sting my cheeks and make my eyes water. Not that I needed the help. The sky was a deep, bruised blue, the kind that comes right before a storm, the kind that makes you feel like the world itself is holding its breath. I walked slowly, each step echoing in my chest like a soft, steady drumbeat, a reminder that something inside me had just cracked in a way I couldn't repair. Behind me, the door slammed shut. Hard. A punctuation mark. A final statement. I didn't flinch. The yard felt colder than it had in years. Even the grass looked dull, as if it knew it had just lost something living, something important. I reached the bottom of the steps and wrapped my coat tighter around me. The fabric smelled faintly of cedar and lavender, reminders of home, what used to be home. My breath trembled as it left my lips. I wasn't crying, not yet, but the pressure in my chest felt like a hand squeezing my heart slowly, deliberately, a kind of pain that wasn't sharp, but deep, ancient almost, the pain of a mother who had finally reached the edge. The sky rumbled above me, a low growl that sent a shiver through the trees. The branches swayed like they were whispering secrets to each other, secrets I was no longer meant to hear. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the gravel driveway. Each stone glistened with the moisture of the coming rain. I remembered kneeling right there years ago, showing him how to tie his shoes because he kept getting the loops tangled. He cried that day because he couldn't get it right, and he threw his tiny sneakers across the yard. I walked over, picked them up, brushed the dust off, and sat with him on my lap until he calmed down. Back then, he listened to me. Back then, he trusted me. Back then, he loved me without conditions. But money changes the shape of love. Sometimes it crushes it entirely. A flash of headlights caught my eye. His friend's truck, an old, rusty thing with music always blasting too loud, pulled up to the house. 3 of them jumped out, laughing as if their lives had always been golden, as if they had never stolen $1 from a gas station or begged me for dinner because they'd spent their money on beer. They didn't see me at first. Or maybe they did, and they didn't care. They bounded up the steps, shouting my son's name as if the house were already theirs. And then the door opened. He greeted them with a grin so wide it looked painful. I had seen that grin before, but never directed at me, not in years. He hugged them. He slapped their backs. He welcomed them into the house with an enthusiasm I hadn't felt from him since he was a child asking if he could play outside. And then, my mistake. I let myself hope, for one tiny, foolish moment, that he might look over and remember I was still there. He didn't. The storm inside me darkened, thickened, hardened. I turned away. The gravel crunched beneath my feet, steady and rhythmic, like a ticking clock counting down. The air grew colder with every step, sinking into my bones, making everything inside me feel heavier. My car sat at the end of the driveway, old and dusty, one headlight dimmer than the other. I reached into my pocket for the keys, but my hand froze. The keys weren't there. Of course they weren't. I'd left them on the kitchen counter hours ago while I was cooking, before the arguing, before the shouting, before the betrayal. Before he became someone I didn't recognize. A bitterness rose in my throat, thick and burning. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at my empty hand as if the keys might magically appear. But the only thing in my palm was cold air and the heavy, inescapable truth. I had nowhere to go. Not tonight. The laughter grew louder behind me. Their voices spilled out the open doorway. Talk about parties, about investment opportunities, about how they'd always known he'd make it big someday. Lies. All of it. Those boys had never believed in him. They had used him, pushed him, mocked him. But now they clung to him like leeches who'd finally found a fresh vein. I turned my head slightly, just enough to see him standing in the doorway, the light behind him casting a halo around his silhouette. For a split second, he glanced my way. Our eyes met. His smile faltered. Something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe? Or recognition? Or the slightest crack of doubt. And then he looked away. Just like that. As if I were nothing. A gust of wind barreled through the yard, slamming the screen door against the siding. The sound jolted me. My hand curled into a fist without meaning to. My fingers pressed into my palm so hard my nails left marks. Somewhere deep inside me, something shifted. A small, quiet, powerful shift. Not anger. Not sadness. Resolve. I straightened my back. The wind tugged at my coat, whipping my hair around my face. But I didn't move. I felt taller than I had in years. Stronger, even with my heart in pieces. If he wanted me gone, if he wanted to cut me out, if he wanted freedom from the woman who'd given him life, then I would give him exactly what he asked for. Completely. I walked past my car and started down the long dirt road that led away from the property. The sky opened slightly, just enough for a cold raindrop to land on my cheek. Another followed, and another. Soon the rain was falling steadily, soaking through my coat, making my hair cling to my face. But I didn't stop. Every step away from that house felt like shedding a layer of pain. Every breath felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Every heartbeat felt like a decision forming in the dark. If he wanted me out of his life, he would get exactly that. But he would not like the cost. Not once he realized what he'd truly lost. Not once he understood what it meant to be left with nothing. And he had no idea. He was the one who would end up with far less than he imagined. The rain followed me like a shadow, cold and relentless, whispering against the leaves and the dirt road, as if trying to talk me out of leaving, as if trying to remind me that mothers are supposed to stay, supposed to forgive, supposed to bend until they break. But I had already bent too far. And that night, something inside me, quiet and exhausted, finally straightened. The world around me dimmed as the porch light grew smaller behind me. The laughter faded, swallowed by the storm, until it was nothing but memory. And a strange calm settled over me, like the hush after a battle, when the dust hangs in the air and the survivors are forced to face what's left. My shoes sank slightly into the wet dirt, making soft suction sounds with every step. The trees lining the road swayed violently, branches whipping, leaves spiraling through the air like frantic birds. Thunder rumbled somewhere close, the kind that shakes the ground and rattles your ribs. I didn't turn back. Not once. For years, I thought leaving him, even for a day, would mean failure as a mother. I thought he needed my supervision, my guidance, my presence. But the truth was simpler and sadder. He needed me to fill the holes in his life he refused to patch himself. And the moment he didn't need that anymore, because money was suddenly a substitute, he tossed me aside like a used tissue. A car passed me on the road, splashing muddy water onto my shoes. The headlights illuminated me for only a second, revealing a drenched middle-aged woman walking alone down a country road at night. The driver didn't stop. They sped off, tires hissing on the wet ground.
I kept walking. Every few steps, a memory rose up, uninvited. The way I used to braid his hair when he was little because he said it made him look like a warrior. The time he cried in second grade because another kid ripped his drawing and he said he'd never be good at anything. The way he clung to me at his father's funeral, gripping my dress so tightly his fingers left wrinkles in the fabric for weeks. All that tenderness, all that fragility, all that trust. Gone. Washed away by $800,000. Lightning flashed. For a moment, the entire road was bathed in white light. In that instant, I saw the outline of the old wooden bus stop ahead, the one nobody used anymore. The roof sagged, the paint peeled off in long, curling strips. But it had a bench, and that was enough. I walked under the shelter and sat down. Rain poured off the edges of the roof, forming little waterfalls just inches from my feet. My coat clung to me, heavy and soaked. My hair dripped onto the wooden boards beneath me. A tremor ran through my body. Not from the cold, from the realization I was free. For the first time in decades, nobody needed me, not even him. But freedom felt nothing like I imagined. It felt empty, hollow, like a bird who discovered the cage door was open but forgot how to fly. I leaned back against the wooden wall and closed my eyes. The rain softened to a steady patter, a lullaby I didn't want to hear. My breathing slowed. My fingers loosened. My heart didn't. It felt clenched, like a fist around a secret I hadn't spoken yet. I should have been panicking. No car, no plan, no place to go, but instead my mind kept replaying the moment he shoved that forged document into my chest. My son had stolen my home, not because he needed a place to live, but because he wanted to erase me. And that kind of betrayal doesn't happen in a moment. It grows, roots, festers. It's planted long before the shouting starts. I should have noticed the signs, the resentment, the distance, the blame, the way he spoke to me with a tone that wasn't quite anger, but wasn't respect either. Something in between, something cold. But motherhood makes you blind sometimes. A car engine hummed in the distance. At first I thought it was passing through, but the sound slowed. Headlights swept across the trees, growing brighter, closer, until the vehicle turned onto the small gravel clearing near the bus stop. My heart jumped. Fear? Hope? I wasn't sure. The car rolled to a stop, idling. Rain misted in the beams of its headlights. Then a door slammed. Footsteps. Heavy ones. My muscles tensed instinctively. I straightened, gripping the edge of the bench as a shadow approached the shelter. For half a second I thought, ridiculously, stupidly, that it might be him, that maybe he'd realize what he'd done and come to find me, apologize, pull me into a hug that felt like old times. But the figure that stepped into the dim light wasn't my son. It was someone else entirely.
A woman. Mid-40s, maybe? Hair plastered to her cheeks from the rain, eyes sharp. She looked familiar in a way that sent a chill through me, one that had nothing to do with the weather. "Are you okay?" she asked, voice steady, almost too steady. I didn't answer at first. My breath hitched, my brain raced, trying to place her face. And then it clicked. I had seen her at the gas station in town months ago. She'd been arguing with someone on the phone, furious, pacing up and down the sidewalk. Something about money, something about a loan. And she had mentioned my son's name. A cold shock rushed through me. She wasn't just any stranger. She was connected to him. She stepped closer, eyes scanning me as if searching for bruises or injuries. "You're his mother, aren't you? Daniel's." My stomach dropped. Daniel. My son. His name sounded foreign coming from her mouth. Lightning flashed again, illuminating her expression for a split second. She wasn't here to help. She wasn't here out of kindness. She was here because she needed something. And I realized, too late, that the storm tonight wasn't just weather. It was a warning. I swallowed hard. "What do you want?" Her lips tightened. Her next words cut through the rain like a blade. "I need to talk to you about the money he owes me." My heart stopped. Money. Owes. Her. The three words that unraveled everything. My son didn't just have people celebrating his lottery win. He had people hunting him. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "He told you, right? He must have, before he won, about the debt." No, he hadn't told me a thing. And suddenly, I understood something I hadn't before. The money didn't change him. The fear did. She leaned in, her expression tight with urgency. "Did he tell you what he promised me in exchange?" For a moment, I couldn't speak. The rain, the thunder, the cold, none of it reached me anymore. All I felt was a sudden, icy hollowness spreading through my chest as the woman's words echoed inside me. What he promised me in exchange. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were desperate. Not the desperation of someone seeking revenge, but of someone who had run out of time. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. "No," I said slowly. "He didn't tell me anything." Her shoulders tensed, as if she had expected that answer but still hoped otherwise. She looked away, running a hand over her wet hair, pushing it back with a shaky exhale. "Of course he didn't," she muttered under her breath. I studied her face more carefully. Beneath the hardened expression and the determination, there was exhaustion. Deep, bone-deep exhaustion. The kind that comes from carrying a burden alone for too long. The kind I knew all too well.
Lightning crackled across the sky again, revealing the deep circles under her eyes. "I met Daniel 2 years ago," she began, pacing once in the tight space under the shelter. "He came to me because he needed money. A lot of it. Fast." My stomach clenched. I closed my fingers around the edge of the bench until the wood creaked beneath the pressure. "Alone?" I asked. She laughed. One short, humorless breath. "Loan implies trust. This wasn't that. This was desperation on his part and foolishness on mine." I felt the world tilt slightly. I leaned forward, needing more. "He said he needed it to pay off some guys he owed. Said they were threatening him. Said he'd pay me back within 3 months. And I believed him. My son? Threatened? By who?" She must have seen the confusion and shock in my eyes, because she added, "I thought I was saving him, helping him, and maybe a part of me was." Her jaw tightened. But then he disappeared. No calls, no payments, nothing. My heart sank. I had no idea he'd been involved with dangerous people. No idea he'd borrowed money from strangers. No idea how deep he sunk. And the worst part? He never asked me for help. Not once. "What did he promise you?" I asked again. Softer this time, more afraid than before. She hesitated, looking at me with something between guilt and anguish. He told me that if he ever came into money, I'd be the first person he'd make whole, that he'd pay me everything he owed me, with interest. Her eyes burned with a bitterness that wasn't directed at me. He said he was expecting something soon. A big break, a business deal, a settlement. Something. I don't even know what. But he swore he'd take care of it. My pulse quickened. My son promising money he didn't have, chasing deals that didn't exist, digging holes he couldn't climb out of, and then winning the lottery. "So when he won," she continued, "I thought that was it. I thought he'd finally keep his word." She paused, breathing heavily. "But then he cut off contact, blocked my number, pretended I never existed. Like I was just an inconvenience," I finished for her. Her eyes snapped to mine, and for the first time, she looked at me with understanding, with recognition. 2 mothers, one of us his by birth, the other by circumstance, caught in the fallout of the same storm. She lowered herself onto the edge of the bench beside me, leaving a respectful 3 feet of space between us, but the air felt cramped anyway, thick with tension. "It's not just the money," she whispered. "It's what he promised me if he couldn't pay." A cold spike pierced my spine. What did he promise? She looked at me then, truly looked at me, and there was sorrow in her gaze. He promised me your land." My breath caught, my vision blurred for a second. The world seemed to dim around the edges, like everything was being swallowed by the dark. "My what?" I managed to force out. "Your land, your property. He told me he'd inherit it soon, that you were planning to sign it over." Inheritance. Soon. A lie. A dangerous, deliberate lie.
"He said he could give it to me as collateral," she pressed on. her voice trembling with a mix of anger and regret. And God help me, I believed him. I thought he had a plan. I thought it was legitimate. I thought... Her words dissolved in the rain. I felt the bench shift as I leaned back, trying to catch my breath. My son hadn't only thought about betraying me. He had planned it long before his win, long before tonight, long before the shouting and the forged signature. This wasn't a sudden change. This wasn't a moment of impulsive cruelty. This was calculated, planned, a year in the making. He had set me up. The rain intensified, pounding the roof with a roar. The wind swept in sideways, spraying mist across our faces. Thunder boomed so loudly it shook the wooden shelter. But inside me, everything was silent. "He didn't tell you any of this, did he?" the woman asked gently. I shook my head slowly. No, he didn't trust me enough to. She exhaled, a long, weary breath. Then her voice softened to almost a whisper. "He wasn't afraid of you. He wasn't angry with you. He was nervous before I came tonight. He knew this was coming due. He knew I'd come looking." I stiffened. "How do you know that?" "Because he texted me 2 days ago. He said, and I quote, 'Don't come to the house yet. I need to take care of something first.'" My heart pounded against my ribs. Take care of something. That something was me, my son. Hadn't kicked me out in anger. He had kicked me out because he needed the house empty. He needed me gone. Completely gone. Without witnesses, without discussion, without interference. He needed possession of the house so he could fulfill a promise he had made behind my back. A deal with someone who had come collecting. I closed my eyes. The betrayal wasn't sudden. It was deliberate, cold, calculated. The woman's next words were almost swallowed by the rain. "I'm sorry. I didn't know he would do this to you. If I had known, I would have never taken his word." I breathed in slowly, carefully, as if the air itself might break me. "It's not your fault," I whispered. "Then whose is it?" she asked. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. We both knew the truth. The boy I had raised, the son I had sacrificed for, was capable of far worse than I ever imagined. And the night wasn't done yet.
Because one truth was becoming clearer with every beat of my trembling heart. He didn't just want me gone. He needed me gone. To protect himself, to keep his secrets, and maybe to keep me from stopping what was coming next. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The storm filled the silence for us, rain hammering the roof, wind howling through the trees, thunder tearing open the sky. It felt as if the world itself was reacting to the truth I'd just heard. My son had pushed me out not because he was angry, not because he changed, not because of the money, but because he needed the house, needed me gone, needed to make good on a deal he thought he could handle, a deal that was already slipping through his fingers.
I stared at the woman sitting beside me, her breath visible in the cold air, her hands trembling slightly, even as she tried to appear composed. Everything in me wanted to crumble, collapse under the weight of this new betrayal. But inside my chest, something far older and stronger pushed back. A mother's instinct. Not to protect him. No, that had been burned clean away. This instinct was to understand, to uncover, to prepare. Because whatever he had gotten himself into, this was far deeper than an unpaid debt. "What exactly did he owe you?" I asked, my voice low. She hesitated. 50,000. My breath hitched. He borrowed $50,000? She nodded, slowly, guilt flickering across her features. I know how it sounds. I know it was reckless. But he convinced me he was about to turn his life around. He spoke about new business opportunities, said he had people who believed in him. He made me think he was different, that he was desperate, yes, but determined. My heart squeezed painfully. Desperate, that part was true. Determined, that was the lie. But when the deadline came, he vanished. I tried to track him down, but he always slipped away. A new number, a different address, excuses, promises, and then nothing. I stared at the rain dripping off the edge of the shelter. The drops fell rhythmically, like a heartbeat, steady and cold. "He told me," she added quietly, "that you were giving him the land soon, that it was practically his already, that he'd be able to pay me easily once the paperwork went through." I closed my eyes. My throat tightened. I felt an ache I didn't know how to name. "He lied," I whispered. She didn't respond, because she didn't need to. Thunder cracked, closer this time, and the ground trembled beneath us. I gripped the edge of the bench with both hands, grounding myself, letting the storm wash the confusion away and leave only clarity. "He forged my signature tonight," I said, the words tasting bitter, "on a deed transfer." Her eyes widened. "He what?" I nodded. "He shoved it into my chest before he told me to leave." Her face drained of color. "He forged a legal transfer to claim my property?" "He tried," I corrected. "It won't hold up. It won't stand. But that doesn't change what he intended." I met her gaze, and something inside me clicked into place, a hard, cold piece of truth. "He wanted the house empty so he could deliver it to you." She looked away, shame heavy on her expression. "I didn't want that. I only wanted him to pay what he owed. I never meant to take anything from you." I believed her. Strangely, I did. But that didn't erase the betrayal. It only deepened it. "Why come now?" I asked. "Because his messages stopped making sense," she said. "He kept making excuses. Then he said you'd be out of the picture soon, that everything was under control. And tonight, he texted me again and told me not to come." She paused. "Which is exactly why I did." Something cold slid down my spine. "He didn't want you to see me," I murmured. She nodded. "He didn't want me to know he hadn't followed through yet, that the house wasn't his." Thunder boomed again, rattling the shelter. The pieces were starting to align, painfully, clearly, and with a sharpness that took my breath away. My son didn't just betray me out of selfishness. He didn't just lie because of pride. He was cornered, terrified, in debt to more than just her. This woman, she was the one who gave him a chance, which meant there were others who didn't. "What aren't you telling me?" I asked quietly. She froze. Her silence was an answer in itself. "Who else does he owe?" I pressed, my voice steadier now, calmer in a way that frightened even me. She swallowed hard. Rain dripped from her chin. She looked at the ground as she whispered, "He owes people far worse than me." The shelter felt colder, smaller, the storm louder. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my face stayed still. "How much?" I asked. She barely breathed the number. $120,000. I felt the world tilt beneath me. So altogether, he owes close to $200,000. I couldn't breathe. 200,000. Debt so deep he couldn't climb out of even if he tried. My son had been drowning, and instead of reaching for me, even once, he had chosen to drag me down with him. "He's been running from them," she added. She told me they were getting impatient, that they wanted collateral, anything. Her eyes lifted and sorrow weighed them down. "He said they'd accept the house." That was the moment the air in the shelter changed, shifted. The storm outside had nothing on the storm inside me. Because suddenly, everything made sense. The tension in his voice, the restless pacing, the way he looked at the house like it was both salvation and doom, the urgency in his tone when he told me to leave.
From people who could destroy him, from consequences he'd created, from debts he could never pay. And to do that, he had chosen me as the sacrifice. I felt something inside me fracture and then harden. Slowly, I stood. My legs trembled, but I didn't fall. The woman watched me, confusion flickering in her eyes. "Where are you going?" she asked. I stepped out from the shelter, into the rain. The water soaked me instantly, dripping down my face, plastering my hair to my cheeks. I didn't care. I looked toward the dark stretch of road that led back to the house. "To finish what he started," I said. My voice was calm. Too calm. Because I finally understood something with perfect clarity. He wanted me gone? Fine. He wanted to stand on his own? Let him. But the price he thought he wouldn't have to pay, he would. And before this night was over, one thing would become painfully clear. He wasn't the only one capable of making impossible decisions. The rain hit me hard as I stepped out from under the shelter, each cold drop slicing against my skin like tiny needles. The woman hurried after me, her footsteps splashing in the puddles, but I didn't slow. I couldn't. My mind was moving faster than my legs, faster than the storm, faster than the fear that had been tightening around my heart all night. "Wait," she called, breathless, grabbing my arm. I stopped, not because she asked, but because something in her voice cracked. When I turned, I saw it. The truth she had been holding back, the truth she hadn't dared to say until now. She whispered, "There's more you need to know." Her face was pale under the flickering streetlight. Her clothes were soaked. She looked like someone who had already survived one disaster tonight and was terrified to step into another. My voice was steady when I answered. "Then say it." She took a shaky breath. "They're coming for him tonight." The world seemed to collapse inward, closing in around us. The wind whipped her hair across her face, thunder exploded overhead, and somewhere in my chest, a cold clarity settled like ice. "Tonight," I repeated. She nodded. "He told me earlier he was going to take care of everything before midnight. When I asked what that meant, he said he'd finally have the deed. He said it would be enough to stall them." Stall. Not pay. Not fix. Not escape. Stall. My son hadn't just betrayed me. He had thrown the dice and hoped I would clean up the mess before they landed. Another flash of lightning tore through the sky, illuminating her face for a split second, one filled with regret, fear, and something else. Guilt. A deeper guilt than before. "What aren't you saying?" I asked again. She flinched. "They know where he lives." My stomach dropped. "They've been watching him?" "They've been watching the house," she corrected.
A cold, sick feeling washed through me. My house. Yes. She swallowed hard. They know it's valuable, and they know he promised it. They think it's theirs. A gust of wind nearly pushed us both backward. Rain slapped the ground with relentless force, turning dirt into rivers. But none of that mattered now, not compared to the realization settling heavily in my bones. I wasn't the only one walking into a trap tonight. "They'll come," she whispered, "whether you're there or not." That was the moment my anger met clarity. If I did nothing, he would be swallowed up by the people he owed. If I went back, I'd be stepping into danger I didn't create. If I ran, everything he had taken, my home, my peace, my trust, would be left for strangers to tear apart. And if I confronted him, I didn't know what would happen. But I knew one thing. Running had never been an option for me. I lifted my chin. Then I need to get back before they do. She looked stunned. "You're going back?" I said quietly. "He's my son. That still means something." Even after everything, even after the lies, even after the betrayal, even after the abandonment, it wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't love in the way it once was. It was something elemental, a thread that didn't break, even when it should have. She hesitated, then stepped closer. "At least let me drive you." "No," I shook my head. "You've done enough, and if they see your car there, they'll think you're involved." She looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't, because deep down, she knew I was right. Instead, she pressed something into my hand. A card, her number. A single gesture, small but loaded. "If something goes wrong," she murmured, "call me." I closed my fingers around the card. "If something goes wrong, don't come." Her breath caught. Then she nodded. I stepped out fully into the rain-darkened road, feeling the storm swallow me whole. Each step felt heavy, but driven, purposeful. The kind of steps a mother takes when she knows she is walking not toward safety, but toward truth, toward confrontation, toward danger, toward the home that no longer felt like mine. The storm roared around me as I headed back. The wind pushed against me. The cold bit through my clothes. The world felt raw, violent, unkind. But nothing, not the rain, not the thunder, not even fear could stop what was coming. Because tonight was no longer about what my son had done. Tonight was about what I would do. And for the first time all night, I wasn't walking away from him. I was walking toward him, step by step, toward the house, toward the truth, toward the final breaking point. The road back to the house felt longer than it ever had, even though my feet knew every bend, every rise, every crack in the dirt. Rainwater streamed down my face,
cold as regret, sharp as memory. Lightning tore across the sky again, revealing the outline of the house in the distance. My house, standing like a wounded animal, waiting for the final blow. Each step made my heart pound harder, not from fear, but from the weight of everything I was about to face. My son, his lies, his desperation, the men he owed, and the truth he had buried under layers of charm and excuses. A mother always knows when she is walking toward the end of something. By the time I reached the front gate, the wind was howling through the trees, bending them like grieving figures. The lights inside the house were on. Too many of them. Every room glowed like someone had rushed through the place with trembling hands, flipping switches without thought. It wasn't like him to leave lights on. Not unless he was scared, or hiding something, or both. My shoes squelched against the soaked ground as I stepped onto the porch. I hesitated for just a moment, listening to the storm batter the world behind me. Then slowly I pushed open the door. Inside, the warmth hit me instantly, or what should have been warmth. Instead, it felt suffocating, thick with tension. My breath fogged the air as if the house itself was holding its breath. And there he was, sitting on the couch, head in his hands, elbows on his knees, shoulders shaking, though I couldn't tell if it was from anger or fear or something broken entirely. When he heard the door creak, he jerked upright. His eyes were wide and red-rimmed. His hair was soaked, like he had been outside or maybe just sweating from panic. For one tiny second, I saw my boy, the child who used to cling to my skirt, the teen who used to say he'd take care of me someday. Then the second passed. You came back. He breathed, half relief, half accusation. I stepped inside and closed the door softly behind me. Of course I came back. A flash of guilt flickered across his face before he buried it under something harder, colder. You shouldn't be here. That's what everyone keeps telling me today, I said quietly. Another crack of thunder shook the windows. He flinched, not from the sound, from whatever he was hiding behind him. Are you expecting someone? I asked. His jaw tightened. No. A lie. A small one, but a lie nonetheless. My eyes scanned the room. The coffee table was covered in papers, crumpled envelopes, overdue notices, letters I'd never seen. A single glass sat beside them, half full of something that wasn't water. And on top of the pile, unmistakable in its cruel red ink, was a final notice. They were here, weren't they? I asked. He froze. The kind of freeze that only comes when the truth lands too close to the heart. I told them I'd handle it. With what? I picked up the envelope, the rain still dripping from my fingertips onto the paper. You think they believed you? They should, he snapped, rising to his feet. I told them once I got the house. I cut him off. My house.
Lightning illuminated the room again, and for the first time I saw the full extent of his panic. His pupils dilated, his breathing rapid, his hands twisting together like a child caught stealing. You weren't supposed to come back, he whispered. I needed time, just a little time. For what? To fix this. I let the silence stretch long enough for him to realize that excuses wouldn't save him now. You were going to give them the house, I said softly. His face twisted, anger, shame, desperation, all tangled together. It's the only thing worth enough. You don't understand what I owe them. They said, I don't care what they said. He stared at me, stunned. I care what you said, I continued. You told them you'd give away something that wasn't yours, something you didn't build, something you didn't bleed for. I touched the wooden wall with my fingertips, the grain familiar as my own skin. You were going to hand strangers the last of everything your father and I worked for. The room felt smaller by the second, the storm pressing against the windows like a warning. He said, I didn't have a choice, finally. But even he didn't sound convinced. There is always a choice, I whispered. Lightning flashed again, but this time I saw something new in his eyes, something darker, deeper, and it terrified me because it wasn't guilt and it wasn't fear. It was resentment. You shouldn't have come back, he repeated, quieter this time, but with a trembling edge that made my skin crawl. I stepped toward him, slow and steady. What exactly were you planning to do when they came and you had nothing left to give? He didn't answer. He didn't have to, because suddenly, from outside, a car engine cut through the storm, low, rumbling, too close. His head snapped toward the window. My heart sank like a stone. They're early, he whispered. The sound of the engine rolled through the storm like a threat wrapped in metal, low, heavy, intentional, not the kind of sound made by someone who got lost in the rain, the kind that belonged to people who arrived with purpose. My son's eyes darted to the window, pupils narrowing with panic, then to the front door, then back to me. Don't stand there. Get away from the windows. His voice shook, not with fear for himself, but with something much worse, the realization that he had run out of road to hide behind. I didn't move. Not because I wasn't afraid, but because after everything tonight, after the lies and betrayal and a lifetime of giving, I wanted to see, really see what my son became when cornered. Who is it? I asked. He swallowed. You know who. The wind rattled the siding, rain hammered the roof, the storm almost swallowed his words. Almost. He moved to the window slowly, like each step weighed 100 pounds. Outside, through the sheets of rain, headlights glowed in the driveway, 2 of them. Then the engine went silent. My heart thudded once. Hard. A door slammed. Then another. Boots hit the gravel. My son backed away from the window, breathing fast, his hands twitching. Mom, go to your room, please. Please, just go. But the request wasn't rooted in protection. It was rooted in damage control. He wanted me hidden, not safe. You should have told me, I whispered. He scrubbed his hands through his wet hair, pacing. It doesn't matter now. It matters, I said calmly. It matters because this house is mine, and you put it on the table like one of your lottery bets. He stopped, chest heaving. I thought I could win it back.
You already won $800,000, I said, feeling the bitterness in my own voice. And somehow that was still not enough for you? His eyes flashed. Guilt, shame, fury. All of it tangled into one unrecognizable expression. The money went fast, okay? People kept telling me about opportunities. I thought I could double it, triple it, and pay them back, I finished. He flinched. Thunder cracked so loud the walls shook. Then 3 sharp knocks on the door. My son froze. The house went silent except for the rain and our breathing. Then came the voice. Deep, calm, too calm. "Liam, we know you're in there." My son's face drained of color. "Open the door," the voice continued. "We need to talk." He grabbed my arm suddenly. "Mom, please, just stay quiet. Don't make a sound." "Why?" I asked. "Did you tell them I wasn't here anymore either?" His breath hitched. I wasn't wrong. Before either of us could move, the door shook once hard. "Liam!" His hand trembled violently against my sleeve. "I'll handle it." "You won't," I said. He turned to me, desperate, wild. "What do you want me to do? They think I still have something to give." "And do you?" He didn't answer. And that silence? That silence answered everything. He would have given them anything, if it meant saving himself. Even if it meant sacrificing me a second time. The door shook again, harder. "We don't have all night." My son grabbed the doorknob like he might fling it open out of pure panic. I stepped forward and covered his hand with mine. He looked stunned. "No," I said softly. "Let me." "What?" He recoiled. "Are you insane?" "No." My voice was steady, steel beneath the calm. "But I am your mother. And I'm done letting you face the consequences of your choices by dragging me into them." He blinked at me, soaked in rainwater and fear. In that moment, he looked like a child again, lost, confused, wanting rescue. But I wasn't here to rescue him anymore. I walked toward the door, slowly, purposefully. The storm screamed outside, as if trying to hold me back. But I had spent too many years swallowing storms bigger than this one. I cracked the door open. 2 men stood on the porch. Rain slid down their jackets, their faces shadowed by the flickering porch light. One lifted his chin. "You're not Liam." "No," I said. "I'm his mother." Their eyes shifted, calculating, curious. "We're here for the payment," the taller one said. I nodded. "I know." Lightning split the sky behind them, illuminating everything, their expressions, their impatience, the darkness they carried with them. And in that split second, I understood something I should have known long ago. My son had been living on borrowed time, borrowed money, borrowed courage, borrowed everything. And debt collectors don't care about the origin of the debt, only the repayment. Behind me, my son whispered, "Mom, please, they'll—" I didn't turn. Instead, I pushed the door wider. "Coming out of the rain," I said. The men exchanged glances. Surprise, suspicion, but not hostility. Not yet. They stepped inside, dripping water onto the wooden floor. My son pressed himself back against the wall, trembling. I folded my hands in front of me. "You're here for what Liam promised, for something he doesn't have." The shorter man raised an eyebrow. "And what exactly did he promise?" I looked directly at my son when I answered. "He promised you this house." My son's breath broke. "Mom, don't do this, please. They won't touch me," I said, voice calm. "Because this isn't about me." I looked at the men. "You want your money, you want your due, but you won't get it by taking something that doesn't belong to him." The taller one tilted his head. "So what do you suggest?" "The police station is 8 minutes down that road. And I'm prepared to drive there right now and hand them every piece of paper he forged, every signature he faked, every message he sent promising you a property that was not his. My son went stiff.
So did the men. You'd turn him in? The shorter one asked, narrowing his eyes. I met his gaze without flinching. Yes. My son gasped, as though I had stabbed him. Mom, no, Mom, you can't. You wouldn't. But I didn't look at him. For the first time in this entire nightmare, I only looked at the truth. You won't get what he promised, I said to the men. But you will get something better. And what's that? The taller one asked. Freedom, I answered. Because if you walk out that door right now, no one will know you were ever here. No one will know what he owes. No one will come after you. No one will drag you into court on his behalf. The shorter man exhaled slowly, studying me. And if we don't, then you stay. And when the police arrive, you'll be standing in a house you intended to take by force, with threats, with leverage from illegal gambling debts. The taller man's jaw worked. A long moment stretched, tight enough to snap. Then, finally, they stepped backward. The shorter one nodded once. We'll consider this debt cleared. My son's knees buckled. I didn't react. Without another word, the men left. Their silhouettes vanished into the storm, swallowed by darkness, by rain, by a night that wanted to erase every trace of them. The front door clicked shut behind them. Only then did I turn to my son. He sank to the floor, sobbing. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, I didn't want. I thought I could fix it. I looked at him. For so many years, I had seen every version of him. My baby. My boy. My pride. My heartbreak. But now, I saw something else. A man who had run out of people to blame. You told me to get out today. You told me you didn't need me. His breath trembled. No, Mom, I didn't mean it. Please don't leave. I'm begging you. I crouched down so we were eye level. I'm not leaving. I'm removing myself. His face twisted in confusion. What does that mean? It means I'm done cleaning up after you. I'm done letting you gamble with my life. I'm done sacrificing myself for choices that are not mine. He shook his head quickly. No, Mom, I'll change. I swear I'll change. I touched his hand. For the first time in months, he went still. I don't understand, I murmured. I'm not giving up on you. He blinked. I'm giving up on saving you. The words landed between us like lightning, silent but destructive. He stared at me, eyes hollowing out,
I stood, walked to the coat closet, pulled out my old duffel bag. Cold, steady, certain.
He scrambled to his feet. "Mom, please, please, where are you going?" I zipped the bag shut. "Away," I said. "Just for tonight? For longer than that." His voice cracked. "But I need you." "No," I said gently. "You need consequences." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. For the first time, he understood. I walked to the door, putting on my coat. Rain thundered outside, but I felt none of its bite now. My heart had already weathered a harsher storm. I looked back at him one last time. "You won the money," I said softly, "but you gambled the real prize." He swallowed. What prize?" "Me." And then I stepped into the rain. Behind me, through the roar of the storm, I heard him sob my name, but I didn't turn back. Not this time, not ever again. I walked away not because I didn't love him, but because loving him had cost me everything. And tonight, finally, I chose myself.